Welcome back to the Bible in a Year. This is day two. We're looking at Genesis 4 through 7, and I'm just here to give you a few resources and sort of coach you through a little bit of these chapters. We have moved away from the fall, where God pronounces his curse on the serpent, Satan, Adam, and Eve, and we move into Cain and Abel. Now, when you understand Genesis 3:15 as the proto-evangelium, the first proclamation of the gospel, you really understand the weight of what happens with Cain and Abel a lot better. So Cain and Abel are the first offspring of Eve, and you get this sense of the hope that they would have had in these two sons, that these are the seed of Adam and Eve, the seed of the woman, and that soon, surely soon, Satan will be defeated and they will be welcomed back into relationship with God the Father, just as they were when they walked in the garden. However, we know that Cain murders Abel. Interesting to point out, it says that then the Lord said to him, "Not so." So Cain offers the fruits of his labors, and it's not accepted to God. And then he kills Abel out of frustration and jealousy. God shows up. Where is Abel, your brother? And so God knows, and then Cain is cursed. But if you back up a little bit before that, we'll just read at the beginning of chapter 4. Now Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." And again she bore his brother Abel. Abel was keeper of sheep, Cain the worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. And then notice the difference in Abel's offering. And Abel brought also the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portion. So the idea is that Abel brings the very best of what he has. Meanwhile, Cain just brings some of what he has. It doesn't say the first fruits of the ground, just the fruit of the ground. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. And then so Cain is very angry and his face falls. The Lord said to Cain, this is key here, why are you angry and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. The idea here is being created in the image of God, we have the choice before us to love God and follow Him. This is for our greatest good and His glory, or we can choose to serve ourselves and hate God. And the choice is ours. Multiple times through this read through, we'll see the choices laid before us: choose life or choose death and sin. As we go on, we get the curse of Cain, and then we get some descendants. Chapter 5, a sneaky, important chapter. We get the offspring of Seth, the third son. So the promise is not defeated with Cain having become a murderer, killing his brother Abel. The seed of the woman will still crush the head of the serpent. She has a son, Seth. And then we follow the generations of Seth in chapter 5 all the way to Noah. And then the last verse of 5 is the offspring of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Um, the line of the seed, just sort of spoiler alert, the line of the seed will follow Shem, but we will see Ham and the other son pop up before. Then we get this interesting passage in 6 where corruption is spreading on the earth. And we get this passage about these mysterious beings called the Nephilim. So I'll just read a little bit here. When man began to multiply on the face of the earth, of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years." The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. So a couple of notes here. Um, I do like this commentary that I've just flipped to called Opening Up Genesis. And again, I'm back on Logos Bible Software. And here the commentator says the continual sin of mankind in Genesis 6:5 leads to one of the most startling sentences in the Bible in Genesis 6:6. The Lord was sorry he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. This is sort of interesting if we know the character of God. He's omniscient, omnipresent. Um, he doesn't make mistakes. So all the things he does are good. Here's the direct quote. The Lord was sorry that he had made man. The idea, though, is that this is not the regret you feel when you realize you've made a mistake. God never makes mistakes, the commentator writes. So, verse 6 is not a picture of God wringing his hands over a bad decision, but it's a picture of a God who is genuinely sorry. Let's think about that word. How can a God who never makes mistakes be sorry for something he did? And you think about what we mean when we say sorry. When we say sorry, and this is again what the commentator writes, what we really mean is, I wish that it had never happened. So God, in creating man in his image, gives him the choice. Choose life, follow God. Choose self, follow the path of sin. On one hand, follow the seed of the woman. On the other hand, follow the seed of Cain. And so um, the sense that we get here in chapter 6 is that God is sorry for man falling into sin. Not that he regrets something that he's done necessarily, that he has made a mistake, but he is genuinely sorry for the bad things that are happening. And so back to the text here. This commentary also, whoops, we've skipped away from our commentary. This commentary here mentions the Nephilim. Um, so it says, begins with the big problem, the intermarriage of families of God-fearing people, the sons of God, or the seed of the woman, with families of unbelievers, the daughters of men. And so this commentator seems to think that the Nephilim and the great evil, this growing sinfulness, is coming out of these um, marriages and the offspring of those who would follow God and then those who wouldn't. There are a couple of other resources that I want to point out. If you go to soniclight.com, this is Dr. Constable's commentary on the entire Bible. He's a professor at Dallas Theological Seminary. And so we have jumped into Genesis and scrolled down to chapter 6. And he writes that there are six major views on the identity of the sons of God, that they can be either seen as fallen angels or demons who married women. And then he gives a few arguments in favor. And then they can be seen as godly Sethites, so the offspring of Seth, who married ungodly women. So that's similar to that commentary opening up Genesis. And a third option is that they were ungodly dynastic rulers who married women. That is, they were upper class men who married lower class women. Fallen angels or demons may have indwelt or at least controlled these men, and arguments in this favor he presents there. And those are the views that he gives. I'm not going to go into super great detail there as to what my view is. I'm comfortable with any of those being the possibility, and I think they are all biblically sound. We see demons possessing people all throughout the Bible. We see God contesting with them and casting them out. And we see the term sons of God used in all the different methods that support those different views. Another resource you might want to explore is called Gospel Coalition. They publish tons of articles. And so I just put in who are the Nephilim, Gospel Coalition, and I got this article. So you could type in the same thing. And so they give you a couple of options. The sons of God equal the sons of Seth. And then the sons of God equal fallen angels. They land on the fallen angels side of the argument, and then they present why they believe it's right with numerous scriptures to support that. And then that's the article. It's just a great read. And if you're confused at that or interested in that, you should check that out. Before we move on to the last two chapters or the last chapter of this reading for today, if you click on Explore at Gospel Coalition, you can go over to Courses and click on Old Testament, and you have Genesis. And if you go to Knowing the Bible Genesis, there's all of these resources over here to take you through every chapter of Genesis. Really good stuff. There's even some videos. So a brilliant resource as you read through. Okay, the key takeaway here is that man was sinful continually in his heart. So we see here in Genesis 6:5, the continual sin of mankind in Genesis 6:5 leads to that startling conclusion that we talked about and the arrival of the flood. So Noah, it talks about his righteousness, the instructions to build the ark, and then in 7, God sends Noah in the ark. Beautiful part of the story. God closes the ark to preserve Noah and his family. And then in the next reading for tomorrow, we'll get into the Genesis flood account. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. Just a little guide for you to get started with this read through. And I'll post more videos. Keep up the good work and stick to it.